Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about the fruit of gentleness. What does it mean and how can it be applied in your life? So in our culture, gentleness is a word that's often misunderstood. When most people think about being gentle, they think that you're just being weak or you're timid or you're just a doormat that everyone can walk over. But biblical gentleness means something completely different. If you look at the Bible, gentleness is strength under control. And that word was used to describe a wild horse that was trained and that was tamed. Now, if you think about it, a wild horse is very powerful, they're very fast, and they're very dangerous, right? Its strength, it's real, but it's unpredictable, which makes it dangerous. But when you take that same horse and when you tame it, it doesn't lose any of its strength or speed, but instead, its power becomes controlled and reliable. And so its strength now serves a purpose and is now useful to any horseback rider. And that's the picture that the Bible illustrates when it comes to gentleness. It doesn't mean that you're passive or you're shy or you're soft, right? It doesn't mean that you lack strength. But what gentleness means is that it means that your strength is no longer ruled by your impulse or your emotion. It means that you submit yourself under the authority of Jesus Christ. And so a gentle person feels emotions just like everyone else in this world, but they don't allow their emotions to take over, right? They have opinions just like everyone else, but they don't use their opinions to crush others or belittle others. A gentle person has power just like everyone else, but now they use it to protect others instead of harming them. And so here's why gentleness matters so much in our lives. Gentleness, it overcomes anger, right? I have been angry many times in my life, but gentleness is the antidote and the solution to anger. You know, we're always gonna have conflict and we're always gonna have fights with people, right? It's unavoidable, it's a part of life. It could be with our spouses, with our friends, with our relatives, or even our coworkers. And most people, they tend to respond to anger or conflict in one of two ways. The first way is that people respond to anger with more anger. And so it stirs up more anger and more conflict. And so this is where people begin to yell at each other, and it just becomes a shouting competition. The second way that people respond to conflict is not through anger, but it's through avoidance. And this is me, right? I tend to neglect my conflict. And so instead of engaging it, people often withdraw or neglect it. It doesn't mean that it's better. It doesn't solve the conflict, it just delays it. And so those two responses always end up with the same result. There's gonna be more anger and more conflict. But here's where gentleness is important. Gentleness actually breaks that cycle. Gentleness allows us to respond in a way that calms anger rather than feeding it. It creates space for understanding, for listening, and for reconciliation. And so it doesn't ignore the conflict, it doesn't ignore the fight, and it doesn't even attack the other person, but the end goal of gentleness is that it seeks resolution and restoration. In Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1, it says this: "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." And then in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 4, it says, "A gentle tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit." What does gentleness look like in conflict? Sometimes what it means is that we need to pause before reacting. Sometimes it means that we need to listen before we speak. Sometimes it means that we need to use calming words instead of sharp ones. Sometimes it means praying and asking God to help us respond in a way that Jesus would whenever we are in anger or in conflict or in tension. Another reason why gentleness is important is because gentleness reflects the heart of Jesus. When Jesus described himself, he could have chosen many words, right? Jesus could have said, I am powerful, or I am mighty, or I am righteous, which he's all of that. But instead, Jesus chose two surprising qualities. You know what he said in Matthew chapter 11? Jesus said, "I am gentle and humble in heart." Gentleness is central to who Jesus is. He had all the power, and yet he chose to display gentleness. Jesus had authority to calm and to stop any storm. He had the power to heal sickness And he had power to feed thousands of people. Jesus had the power to call down on angels if he wanted to. But at the same time, Jesus also welcomed the stranger. He welcomed children when everyone else pushed them away. Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, which was a task only given to servants. Jesus touched the leper that everyone else avoided. Jesus also restored a woman caught in sin and adultery when everyone else wanted to cast stones at her. And even on the cross, Jesus spoke for the forgiveness of his enemies. And so Jesus used his strength and his power to uplift others. And I thank God that Jesus was gentle with me in my weakness and in my failures and in my doubt. And I thank Jesus that he didn't push me away, but he restored me. And as followers of Jesus Christ, we are called to walk the same way. We are called to walk the same path of gentleness. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned a lot. Take care, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.